This episode of Marijuana Today Daily is brought to you by our friends over at Curaleaf, one of the nation's leading providers of adult use and medical marijuana products, with 90 local dispensaries, 22 cultivation sites, and 30 processing facilities, all serving up more than 350,000 registered patients and customers in 23 operating states. Learn more about all the good work done by everyone over at Curaleaf at their website, curaleaf.com, with Curaleaf spelled C-U-R-A-L-E-A-F. Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Tuesday, September 15th, 2020, and you're tuned into episode 980 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. We return to the burning West to lead off today's story, where we have the unfortunate news that the August complex fire, now the largest wildfire in California's recorded history, is threatening the Emerald Triangle, the area of the state long known for growing great cannabis, mostly on small farms tucked away in the mountains. Those same mountains are now full of dried vegetation from the effects of climate change and are primed for the swift spread of wildfire. The August complex fire has now burned more than 900,000 acres of land and stretches more than 100 miles north to south. Please excuse my language here, but this is kind of apocalyptic shit. As of yesterday, the August complex fire was only 28% contained, so there's a lot to watch here in the coming days, especially with authorities worried that the fires might move quicker than people can evacuate. Again, our thoughts are with everyone affected by this fire and all the others burning up the West right now. Be safe. The IRS released official guidance last week for how legal marijuana companies can pay their taxes. Even though cannabis is considered to be illegal at the federal level, the Internal Revenue Service is more concerned that any marijuana sold has its proper taxes levied and paid. And of course, due to the fact that marijuana is illegal, cannabis-touching businesses are not allowed to deduct the normal business expenses that other companies are allowed, meaning they pay a much higher effective tax rate. At least now, thanks to the just released guidance from the IRS, they have more information on how they can pay those onerous taxes. You can open up Kyle Yeager's piece for more on this at Marijuana Moment and for a link to the guidelines themselves. As always, we have all the news we cover linked to on our website at mjtodaydaily.com. On Friday, the Vermont House of Representatives voted 113-10 in favor of a bill that would set up the automatic expungement of past cannabis crimes, while also raising the bar for how much cannabis people can have before they face the threat of jail time. The House will need to consider and cast one more vote on the bill before it can head over to the Senate. The bill would automatically clear away cannabis convictions in the state involving up to 2 ounces for mature plants or 8 immature plants. This is a big story because it's automatic expungement. If you set up an expungement system that requires people to have to take any action to clear their records, you're going to leave a lot of people behind for various reasons. Automatic expungement, while technically being more challenging to pull off, is a way more just policy as it covers everyone. Nice work here. Best of luck to everyone pushing this bill forward. Those are the top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz out on headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, Curaleaf, one of the nation's leading providers of adult use and medical marijuana products, with 88 local dispensaries, 22 cultivation sites, and 30 processing facilities, all serving up more than 350,000 registered patients and customers in 23 operating states. Everyone at Curaleaf knows that their customers run the gamut from long-time experienced consumers to those folks who may be trying out cannabis for the first time. So they've designed their retail experience to welcome and accommodate both sets of people, along with everyone in between. That's why you'll find educational materials spread throughout Curaleaf's shops and why their well-trained and educated staff are ready to answer any questions asked. Curaleaf is offering services like online ordering and curbside pickup wherever allowed, and you can find a full state-by-state listing for how Curaleaf is handling the coronavirus pandemic over at their website found at curaleaf.com, spelled C-U-R-A-L-E-A-F. Big thanks to everyone at Curaleaf for helping us make today's news happen. All right, time for the Blitz. At its most recent meeting held late last week, the Oregon Liquor Control Commission approved a set of rules for how marijuana companies can sell cannabis, allowing the permanent use of curbside delivery. Oregon started allowing dispensaries to conduct business up to 150 feet from their stores as a response to Trump's disastrous pandemic response, and has decided to keep it as a full-time feature of the state's industry. The commission also decided to allow patients and caregivers to continue buying a higher amount of cannabis than before, with the new permanent limit of 24 ounces in any one day and no more than 32 ounces in a month. The U.S. Department of Agriculture just approved the industrial hemp regulatory plans filed by the state of Utah and the Torres Martinez Desert Cahuilla Indian tribe located within California, bringing the total number of approved plans now to 60. These plans have to be filed by states, territories, and native tribes wishing to regulate industrial hemp, made legal by the 2018 Farm Bill. As edible sales have begun in the state of Florida, one recent estimate is pegging the amount of edible sales in the first year at $250 million. The dispensary chain Trulieve was the first company in the state to start selling edibles on September 5th, with other Florida providers set to follow. Given the older demographic of Florida's medical cannabis patient population, this one seems like a no-brainer. Marijuana Business Daily has more here if you want it. Virginia state lawmakers passed bills this week in both the House of Delegates as well as the Senate to allow for the expungement of past cannabis crimes. Though the two pieces of legislation share the same focus on expungement, they do vary in how they do it, with the House's bill having automatic mechanisms, while the Senate's version requires people to initiate the process. As Kyle Yeager has it in his Marijuana Moment story, if the two bills pass, it's probable that a bicameral committee of lawmakers will convene to try to hammer out a compromise version. Charlotte's Web Holdings, Inc. just released its second quarter financial results as the company saw overall revenue drop to $21.6 million, down from $25 million in the same quarter last year. The company saw a net loss of $14 million in Q2 2020 compared to a $2.2 million net profit last year. Deanie Elsner, CEO of Charlotte's Web, blamed the ongoing pandemic for the drop in sales, though the company has also had higher expenses as a result of expansion. New Mexico Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham held a press conference on Thursday and spoke about the need for lawmakers in her state to legalize adult-use marijuana to help ease the financial burdens of Trump's disastrous pandemic response. Like just about every state, New Mexico is facing some serious budget shortfalls, and Governor Grisham said at her press conference that legal adult use could bring in $100 million into the state's coffers, an estimate that includes both adult use and medical markets upon maturation. And finally for today, Mr. Ben Adlin, writing over Marijuana Moment, details an important story about a proposed federal rule for workplace drug testing that would have a disproportionately negative impact on people of color. The proposed rule has to do with using hair as a mechanism to test for the presence of drugs, a method that's received tons of criticism for both being ineffective and racist, as there are plenty of outside environmental factors that could cause drugs to show up in one's hair, and the fact that the tests are influenced by the amount of melanin in a given sample, meaning darker hair stands a higher chance of showing up positive. Swing over to Ben's story on this one for more, with the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration accepting public comment through November 9th. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again on Thursday with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Before we go, I wanted to explain again, I just am definitely not going to be able to pull a show together tomorrow because I'm going to be single dadding it and hanging out with my 4-year-old. So apologies for that. So we will have a show on Thursday. I'm almost certain of that. We'll be able to get the show up on later in the Thursday. So I'm not really quite sure how I'm going to solve this whole Wednesday thing, but I'm working on it. Long story short. Thanks to our sponsor, Curaleaf, and to our awesome Patreon listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the illustrious ranks of the patron listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mgatodaydaily.com and click on the big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in and starting your day with marijuana today.
One take, Shay. One take.